We've been waiting for this moment to happen for quite a while now, and it looks like we are, or at least the day has come. Wells Fargo lays off mortgage bankers days after rewarding some with California retreat. And it says here that Wells Fargo laid off hundreds of mortgage bankers this week as part of a sweeping round of cuts triggered by the bank's recent strategic shift. Wow. Additionally, you guys have seen on previous videos, major announcements coming out of other banks, worrying and concerning. PNC Bank announced it will shutter 32 locations throughout the U.S. in 2023 as the bank sees more customers transitioning to online banking. Not at will, though. This is a forced transition to online banking, and the bank is closing their brick and mortar locations by March this month, according to December filings with the Office of Comptroller of the Currency stores in 10 different states, which are closing, creating what some would describe as banking deserts.
So real quick, you said that Wells Fargo had like a vacation thingy,
California retreat?
California retreat before they laid them off, so that maybe they wouldn't go postal or whatever and go out on a good note as opposed to go out pissed off?
Not quite, and I'll share that with you just a moment.
Now, the other one, before you go, you said PNC is closing its locations?
Multiple.
Okay, so I actually had a missed phone call from PNC today. By the way, side note, this is just weird timing. But I had a missed phone call from PNC today. They left a voicemail, and I went to listen to it, and it's like, "Hi, Michelle. Nothing really big, important here. Everything's fine on your end. Just wanted to let you know the location that you signed up for, we will be closing." And I thought nothing about it. Years and years and years ago. You don't remember?
No,
Oh. Business.
Okay, yeah. I remember I signed up at PNC at one time because Willie was there.
Yeah,
but
and then that's why I did
okay,
it. Yes.
Okay.
All
right.
A friend of ours worked there, and we wanted to help him out.
Got
so
it.
we got business
Okay.
accounts there.
I didn't know. I couldn't remember you did. Meanwhile, at the same time, we're seeing reports from multiple sources that the FDIC said banks will close on a Friday, or will they? Meanwhile, we have leaked documents and footage from the FDIC with statements and claims for these banking collapse and potential banking collapses and liquidity crises happening on a Friday, where a quick Google search will show what will happen if the FDIC were to run out of money. And it says here that there are over $9 trillion of deposits at U.S. banks. More than $3 trillion of these deposits is completely uninsured. So it's true, of course, that when the FDIC fund risks running dry, as it did in 2009, it can go back to other parts of the federal government for help, which I don't know if that's really going to be a viable option right now, considering the current state of the federal government having already exceeded the debt limit ceiling. Meanwhile, just at the end of 2022 in December, the FDIC quarterly announcement analysis shared that the Deposit Insurance Fund, or the DIF, balance is now at $125.5 billion. Far less than, in my opinion, what is really even a safe cushion to safeguard against all the deposits that are at risk.
I was just thinking DIF. Remember when we had a DIF shortage?
DIF.
That's why. Okay, I knew something was wrong.
We weren't short on differentials.
We were short on DEF. Never mind. But were we though? But anyway.
And according to Fred, it looks like we're approaching $17.6 trillion of total deposits, and that was back in 2022. 2023, we're more likely 19.56 trillion. But the question is, should we?
Welcome to my brain.
Should we be worried? What are the top 5 ways to prepare? And will banks make a habit of closing accounts and taking people's money through bail-ins? As we see here, the remarks by FDIC Chairman Martin Grunberg at the Institute of International Bankers, the pandemic's impact on the banking system was obviously that of one that was, tested. Mm-hmm. Joint statement of liquidity risks to banking organizations resulting from crypto asset market vulnerabilities adds to this fragility of this banking system. Why? Because as we can see here from the FDIC's own website, in light of events that highlight a number of risks associated with crypto assets and crypto asset sector participants, FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried,
Okay.
as well as banking organizations that use certain sources of funding from crypto assets related entities may be exposed to heightened liquidity risks due to the unpredictability. Hence, withdrawal limits. But we're already, in my opinion, should be extremely concerned about the current state of the banking institutions, liquidity crisis risks, possible bank collapse as we are on the brink of a recession, possible depression alone, before we even add in the added consequences and negative drawbacks of banks being tied up and into crypto.
Let me ask you a question. As somebody who does not follow banking as stringently as you do and does not have the same level of knowledge that you do, I have questions on, I know this is not what this is about, but CBDC. So you're talking about how these banks may have no money, not be able to give you your money back, all that fun stuff. What happens when they flip that switch and everything goes to central CBDC, central bank digital currency, right? What happens when that happens? Who's at the helm, if you will, and who's to say they don't just fudge some numbers, like they make up some numbers? How do you ever know past that point what is real and what is not, since there will be no physical form of anything to back up the CBDC numbers they tell you exist?
Interesting that you asked that, and you actually asked a lot of really good questions. And number one, this is a question that I've already asked myself, which is if it's self. If it's already fake, if it's already ones and zeros based on a fractional reserve banking system built around trust and faith that a dollar is worth a dollar, which isn't worth a dollar anymore due to inflation, probably worth less as we approach this recession, why not just digitally back up and restore the lost money through banking collapses and bail-ins through the FDIC with just more fake money? So you got that.
Okay.
Additionally, CBDC theoretically backed by the central bank, you would think would be tied into the FDIC in some form of way, but they haven't actually really discussed that.
But what's to stop them from still fudging things? They're literally, you put these three things, you put a bank, the FDIC, and what other one you said, you put them in a closed room where nobody can see anything or get to anything because now everything's behind firewalls and locked doors and everything else. Who's to say those three don't get in there and go, listen, we done royally fudge this thing up. We'll just smooth it all out. Nobody has to know that we just kind of push this all aside. If they know, then it messes with the dollar. It messes with what our currency is worth. So if they never know, then our money is still good. It still holds its weight. It's still...
Well, here's the other thing.
Okay.
As not only the United States government, the U.S. Central Bank, Federal Reserve, as well as other central banks around the world, do you know what they're doing right now? In addition to preparing to roll out their new digital dollar and central bank digital currency, CBDC, do you know what they're doing?
Looking at ways to make it universal.
They are. But you know what they're doing to back it up, to substantiate it, to tie it to some form of value, to hedge their bet and protect themselves? Do you know what they're doing?
Tying it to real estate?
They're tying it to some other asset.
Okay.
Gold.
Oh.
They're buying and purchasing large amounts of gold.
I love gold.
Because basically what it boils down to, and I believe ITM Trading, I think it's ITM Trading is the channel.
We're seeing central banks like India, China, and others buying a lot of gold at the moment.
Yes.
The reason they're doing that is because if something breaks in the financial system of the world as it is, it'll be time for a new global monetary system, and those who have the most gold will get a seat at the table and possibly call the shots.
Basically, she had a guest on her channel and he was from Switzerland, and it was a quick blurb that I watched, and he says that all these central banks are buying up gold for the collapse so that they actually have some stored value to allow their country's central bank to stand on when their currency collapses, when the dollar collapses. If and when central bank digital currency CBDC collapses, it all goes back to gold.
So here's the question, and I probably shouldn't ask this, but it's something that I always think about. Why will gold still have any value if everything else loses value? That's like saying the chicken is worth the same amount as gold, or that rock over there. Like, who determines that gold still has value and how much value that gold has?
Well, you got to think, it's all relative, theoretically based on the masses, but to some, gold will have less value than insulin.
Very true.
Gold will have less value than clean water.
Gold will keep you alive.
It's all perspective and faith and belief.
Okay.
However, according to FDIC.gov, what does FDIC do when a bank fails? Historically, the FDIC pays insurance within a few days after a bank closing, usually the next business day, by either one, providing each depositor with a new account at another insured bank in an amount equal to the insured balance of their account at the failed bank, or what?
That's the easy way to do it, because then they don't actually have to come out of pocket with real money. They just put your number into
that's
a new
the thing.
bank.
There's no real money. You
Well,
gotta
that's
understand.
what I'm saying. But most people don't understand that. So your bank fails, and you got 10,000 people expecting their $100. Let's say each has $100. They're expecting $100 out of there, and the bank is going, "Oh shit, I don't have
What
that."
what the banks can and can't do. The banks can't give everybody their physical money back.
Never.
But what they can do is give them back a balance on a ledger. Because
That's
of
helpful at the grocery
because
store.
of fractional reserve banking. Think about it. Now fractional reserve banking has gotten so out of hand, and I feel like we may have gotten a little off track with this
Sorry.
video, but we're going to catch back up.
Okay.
But this is important information to discuss and share with the people who are watching, the viewers and subscribers. Thank you all for joining us yet again. But with fractional reserve banking, you could put $100 in the bank, and the bank could then lend out and invest and utilize your $100 physically elsewhere. So for instance, I put $100 in the bank gives me back a statement, a ledger that shows I have $100 in my account. That $100 bill, that fiat currency, paper money, whatever, then gets loaned out to another account holder. Someone who applies for a loan. The bank becomes a creditor, a lender. You take that $100 in a loan. Then go to another bank. Deposit that money in your account, because the loan you received, you're going to use it for whatever reason it may be. That bank then can do the same thing. So my bank now shows it has $100 that it doesn't actually have because it gave to you. And then your bank now shows it has $100 that it doesn't actually have because it's given it to someone else. So at the end of the day, if everyone then decided to come back to all their banks and say, hey, I want all my money back in physical form, they literally can't do it.
So where does it all go?
In the cloud.
That's the problem.
What is required in an FDIC branch closure? Notice, and this is important, folks, because this is what a lot of people are worried about, afraid of, preparing for. Losing sleep at night over, and it says that an identification of the branches to be closed, the proposed date of the closing, a detailed statement of the reasons for the decision to close the branch, and statistical or other information that supports the reason that is consistent with the institution's written policy for branch closings. Therefore, I hope to provide you guys with just an ounce of comfort in knowing that a bank closure theoretically shouldn't happen abruptly. There should be some notification. Now, much like the video we did earlier today, where I'm sharing with you the information revealed from a recent Raymond James conference about Walmart and their future plans, the key is that this information is being shared. But if we, the people, aren't ingesting this information, understanding this information, deciphering this information, and planning and preparing for it, then it's all for naught.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, also, BCLP law states that a default by the U.S. government on its obligations will have no impact on the FDIC or the FDIC Deposit Insurance Fund, which I think is very important as we are in a government debt ceiling limit crisis.
You know, if we have a default on any of our stuff, we get raked over the coals for it. But if the government has a default, it's cool. It's cool.
It depends. Think about Donald J. Trump. How many defaults did he have strategically through bankruptcies that businesses use to their benefit? Now, what happens if you have more than $250K in the bank?
You're only insured up to $250K. I know
Obviously.
that part.
The bottom line, according to bankrate.com, is that any individual, this is very important, folks.
In one account.
I want you guys to pay attention to this. And I got to double check the stipulations on FDIC insurance.
Okay.
But according to this, I'm going to read it for what it is.
Okay.
Any individual or entity.
So you and I, as a married couple, could have $500,000 in a bank, and it should be covered up to 500. Be covered up to 500 is what you're saying. Sorry.
But you having multiple accounts, I don't know if it necessarily automatically allows you to have multiple layers of coverage.
Well, because that's what I was going to say. If you have a Bank of America, you have a Wells Fargo, you have a PNC, even though I probably wouldn't at this point, you have all these other ones. If you have 250, 250, 250, 250, you space them out, all your eggs not in one basket, you should, in theory, be covered at this 250, that 250, that 250.
So there's two very important statements that I want to make now.
Okay.
Is one, if you have multiple amounts, exponentially multiples over $250,000 to put in the bank in savings.
I know what you're going to do with this.
Kudos.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, why aren't you investing that shit? Like,
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Side note.
But two, I want to share with you what Bankrate has to say, and it's pretty clear. Any individual or entity that has more than $250,000 in deposits at an FDIC insured bank should see to it that all monies are federally insured. Should see to it. Therefore, don't do it. Therefore, be insured, and if not, get it out of the bank.
Because what they're saying is it's not an automatic insured. So how would you insure your money in the bank without it being insured by the bank?
Well, let me just ask you this question. Your mom just recently had her car repaired after a car accident. How long did it take for her to even get the opportunity to get into the auto repair collision center to have the car?
6 weeks.
6 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you really want to entrust your being made whole based on an insurance company and other parties? How much time do you have? So I don't necessarily only want to rely on the insurance. For instance, we were learning the hard lesson. We have an HMO insurance when it comes
I picked
to
the wrong crap.
health and
Dentist.
dental insurance, and we're in a PPO.
Just the dentist.
We're in a PPO network. Okay.
Did not realize. Thought I picked the right
We
one.
are 40
Turns out I didn't.
miles away from an HMO dentist.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we would either have to travel a great distance or
Wait till November to get your teeth looked at.
or pay out of pocket and then be reimbursed. So, do we want to rely on insurance? Not necessarily, because that means we either have to drive a further distance or we have to wait until November to change our insurance from an HMO to a PPO. But more so, what's important, in my opinion, is having the ability to have that diversity. To say, you know what, we'll pay out of pocket. We'll allow them to reimburse us because we can't wait on the insurance, is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Now, I want to get into the
Note-taken.
meat and potatoes of this video, the juicy stuff. Thank you. Shout out to Bupe in Africa, in Zambia, for sending this link to this information to prompt this video to bring you guys this important update. Hundreds of employees in multiple locations across Florida and the Deep South are without a job after American Car Center announced a sudden closure of its business on Friday. Now, I believe this was last Friday, so I just want to clarify that.
Is American Car Center the name of the place, or we're
American
saying
Car Center.
Okay, I didn't know if you're about to like come out with Ford or something. I was like, oh crap.
According to this ABC Action News article, Sam Brightman worked at American Car Center in Seminole for more than 5 years, okay? And it says here that we created a big family. This is very important, folks, of literally all the warning signs that have been adding up to get to this point, of which I have been sharing with you all since February of last year when I created this channel. But according to Sam Brightman, when he left work on Friday, he had no idea it would be all of their last days on the job.
So no, like, hey, here's a 2 week, because like
He
they
says-
expect you as
he
an employee
says-
to give them a 2 weeks notice. They didn't give him as an employee a 2 weeks notice. Hey, listen, in 2 weeks we're gonna just screw you over completely.
He says, but when he left work on Friday, he had no idea. He worked Friday, went home, and received a text message that said, "You're no longer an employee."
Listen, I'm just saying, this is how places get burned down. That's all I'm saying.
Now, you brought this up earlier with Wells Fargo and sending the employees on this retreat. They avoid this by doing things like this, sending a text message. That's how
That
they
is the
avoid
coward's
this.
way out of
That's
things.
how they avoid this. They use a text message. They use some sort of inner office workflow.
Look.
They are not trying to have these conversations face to face.
He said like a family. That sounds about right.
And
When your family wants to fight, they don't get in your face. They send you a text message and tell you
they
to suck.
they tell you at the barbecue
Yeah.
after a few Heinekens. And so basically what's going to happen in the future, guys, I'm just letting you guys know, people will begin to become laid off, get the word, get announcements, get notification by way of AI.
I was going to say social media, because a lot of people found out a lot of, like in my videos lately, people replying going, that's literally the city over for me. I had no idea that happened, because people don't tell
Much
people.
like the banks want to move away from brick and mortar, Walmart wants to move away from brick and mortar. Everybody wants to move away from the threat. And the threat is of
And firing somebody face to face, knowing that they need that job, or else their whole entire family could end up homeless, or their child needs medicine, and then that's your Adam's apple that gets punched in.
but wait, it gets worse.
Oh, lovely. We love when it gets
All
worse.
employees across 3 American Car Center Tampa Bay area locations and across the nation across the nation,
Okay.
40 locations, unexpectedly let go by a text message. Questions being asked are now, how are we going to pay our bills? I have a child who's disabled. Star Schnur worked in tags and titles for 6 years. She said no one even told her. And unlike him, I never got a text. I never got anything. Perhaps she probably heard from, or I'm assuming she, for the name Star.
Or showed up to work on Monday and doors
get
are
in.
closed, couldn't get in.
Some
But-
employees did receive an email on
Oh, wow.
Friday from
Those
the
are the high-ups.
Memphis-based company's CEO, Noah Hogan. And
I
it
hope
said-
Noah Hogan has moved himself to a remote island somewhere where nobody can find him.
And it said, no, it gets worse.
Okay.
And it said, in part, the company has made the incredibly difficult decision to permanently cease all business operations. Effective close of business February 24, 2023, all employees of the company will be terminated.
Question, because I don't know anything about this story, but here's my question. Were they about to get in like serious trouble for some shady dealings that they had with cars and financing or something?
You're jumping ahead.
Oh,
You're
I don't
jumping ahead.
know. But I'm like, why else would you just
You're
cut
jumping
it off,
ahead.
shut the things, and go? Like, pull. That's the
Now-
only thing that makes sense.
We've been down this road before, but I did not abruptly terminate, and I made sure everybody was made whole. All the employees,
Yeah,
possibly better than they were before we.
definitely.
Now, employees say that they are worried they won't get paid for their final days. Which, yeah, it sucks you just lost your job. It sucks you got notified by a text message or an email, or you didn't get notified at all.
Sucks
but it would
worse when you
suck
don't get
even
paid.
more if you don't get paid.
I was thinking, what happens to your vacation time, your personal leave time, all that stuff that you have accrued because it's the beginning of the year. You have all this stuff that in theory you should have an entire year to take. You know that's going out the door.
that's a tough one because in car sales, you don't,
that's true.
you don't get.
That's true.
That's your life.
That's true.
That's a life sentence. Okay.
How much money did Mr. What's his name? Paul Hogan? No, that's somebody else's name. What was this guy's name? Noah Hogan?
This is Brightman.
No, the Hogan person.
Hulk Hogan?
No, the Hogan. You said something Hogan.
Oh, Noah Hogan.
Noah Hogan. If it comes out that Noah Hogan walked away with like millions of dollars by closing the doors, do you understand?
I'm sure it will be revealed and uncovered As they all are.
Must
Okay?
have, where did the cars go?
You're jumping ahead. All right.
I'm at the ones on the lot. Now
So-
I'm thinking about the ones that have been purchased.
It says, according to Brightman, I don't know if I'm going to get a paycheck. I don't know if I'm going to get reimbursed for my vacation time. I don't know if I even have any medical insurance right now. I don't know anything. Have you read this already?
No,
Have you seen
I
this
didn't
already?
think about the medical. I didn't think about medical because I was thinking car salesmen don't get.
ABCActionNews.com says we reached out through calls and emails to the Memphis-based company but could not get through to anyone. We also went to all 3 Tampa Bay locations and saw the same thing: vacant buildings and tow companies taking cars away. And no one is answering the calls in Memphis where we pay our bills, and a sign on the door said temporarily open by appointment only, but according to this, when calling for an appointment, no one answered.
Is there not an online pay your car online kind of thing?
According to the Pinellas County Consumer Protection, they're suggesting that employees call a specific number. As of right now, I think they've updated the online payment portal for the customers. But wait,
There's more.
there's more. According to iTeam in Jacksonville, this same company had 3 dealership locations in Jacksonville, Florida, abruptly closed, leaving customers questioning where to make payments. Specifically, American Car Center headquarters in Memphis laid off 300 employees. Many customers of a car dealership that abruptly closed its doors are concerned that their cars could be repossessed at no fault of their own. This is where it gets really, really interesting, folks.
Because that janks your credit up.
Well, let me explain to you.
Okay.
Somebody commented, I really do appreciate the comment on the last video where they said, I noticed that what I said, that Walmart, when they close a store, they retain ownership and they control the tenant, therefore controlling the competition. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to break you guys off on some business knowledge here about what could potentially have happened here that is going to be very, very bad. Okay. Now, it says that American Car Center is a Memphis-based company that first laid off more than 300 employees at its headquarters last Friday. It also shuttered its doors at the 3 Jacksonville locations on Atlantic Boulevard, Cassatt Boulevard, and Blanding Boulevard. And American Car Center has 45 dealerships in 10 states. And Jeanette Stewart, she leased a 2016 Ford Escape through the dealership and worries about the effects on not being able to pay the bill. It says here that when she tried to log into her account to put in the information, it was deleted. Her account was deleted, the site was deleted, everything was gone.
Look, I see that as they can't figure out who has the car and who has what. You just got yourself a free car, Jeanette. Come on down.
Now, I'm going to tell you what happened, okay? Dealerships have what's called a floor plan, okay?
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to be privy to this information when I sold my Ford F-250 to that guy in Louisiana.
Okay.
He bought it as a dealer, and he was explaining to me how the
I
floor
remember you
plan
told
worked.
that. Okay.
So what the dealership in this instance did was use their floor plan to finance the vehicles and then utilize in-house financing to get less than stellar credit applicants approved to borrow these cars. Okay? Mm-hmm. So then they make the payment to the dealership.
The
Theoretically,
dealership makes the payment to the bank.
theoretically.
But then the dealership is the one that's on the line, not the person. Okay. So then that would mean that would mean that the cars should be safe in the people because the dealership is the one that is with. Nah.
So Stewart said, all of American Car Center's vehicles have tracking devices and kill switches, which have the capability of disabling the vehicle when the bills are not paid. So she is already in panic mode, thinking that this car is going to be inoperable.
Jeanette, let me explain to you what you need to do. You need to go to the corner and find Louie and Bucky.
No, you got to find Tesh.
You got to find Tej. Oh, yeah, from Fast and the Furious. You got to go find somebody who just happens to have know where all the cars that have gone missing have turned up and have them unload jack your
She said
stuff.
that if you're driving and let's say you stop somewhere to the store, if you haven't paid anything, they can turn the starter off where you cannot start the car at all. Now,
Barney Rubble that shit.
I
Put
don't
some
wanna-
holes in
I
the
don't want to
floorboard.
go
and
off on this
Run
tangent,
it away.
but I do want to share with you that Ford has moved forward with some recent patent developments for the ability to repossess cars remotely using self-driving technology. And they've also stated that they have plans and are preparing to utilize tactics to get people to pay, which includes disabling the automatic windows, disabling the air conditioner, and even playing a less than desirable audible tone.
Okay, that one's just mean though. I mean, like that one's just mean. You just you got from Dumb and Dumber. One of the most annoying noise in the world.
So Stewart said that she received a text message Wednesday night from the Westlake Portfolio Management Group, which reads in part, "The best way to manage your auto lease is through your My Account portal, which requires she enters her personal information."
How does she know that's not a scam?
Which, as I'm reading this, it says lease. Therefore, the dealership still owns the vehicle.
So it's not even under her, so she's
No.
perfectly fine.
So here's the deal,
That's what I'm
folks.
saying.
Here's the
They're
deal,
trying to
folks.
scare people.
The dealership knew this was going to happen. In my opinion, I'm not saying that this dealership in particular, hashtag don't sue me, bro. But what I'm saying is somebody knew the plan, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we're gonna collect as much money as possible from these people.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna keep the creditors at bay.
Mm-hmm.
Never let them get in contact with the people driving these leased borrowed vehicles that they don't own. We're going to collect as much as we can. Then we're going to go belly up. All these cars, these vehicles that these people thought that they were paying for towards owning, or at least having the ability to drive, will now become subject to repossession. Why? Because the dealership defaulted on their floor plan. Much like Carvana in the situation that they're in, granted, I believe Carvana had someone come in and buy their debt, but the people are removed from the actual lender, whereas the people lease the vehicles from the dealership.
So that's what I'm saying. Then the main bank would not know where those vehicles are, because if they lease them from the dealership, that means the dealership.
Because the cars have tracking devices and kill switches on them.
But do they really?
I'm sure.
And
they-
who put them there? If the dealership put them there, then the banks wouldn't know about it. That was a dealership's way.
No, maybe. Who knows? We'll have
Ooh,
to see.
we gotta
If
keep an eye on
anybody watching this video
Happens to know or worked there or has
Exactly.
one of their cars, please.
Please contact. So it says here that we worked incredibly hard. This is an employee. We worked incredibly hard over many months to avoid this outcome. Or I'm sorry, this is the CFO,
I was
Noah
about to say, they
Logan.
knew?
He reportedly sent this following email to employees. We worked incredibly hard over many months to avoid this outcome, but at this point, we have no choice. Effective as of close of business today, February 24, 2023, the employment of all employees of the company will be terminated. On behalf of the company, thank you for your efforts, and I wish you well in your future endeavors.
So for months, he knew that he was on the verge of screwing over all of their employees. And instead of giving anybody kind of sort of a heads up of, hey, listen, because they were more worried about making sure employees stayed than making sure people had a livelihood.
This is what I've been telling you guys about since last February.
Businesses
okay?
don't give a rat's ass
No,
about
but I've been
you.
telling you. I said, look, the squeeze was coming. Bankruptcies were coming. Businesses were going to fail. I told you guys this was coming. I told you.
So I can't do these videos with you because I get immediately pissed off for everybody and I want to go throat punch Noah Logan.
You know, I encourage folks to look back on old videos where I shared this information from a business perspective. Like, I was telling you guys what was happening before it was happening, while even bankruptcy attorneys, from which we even met one at Grand Teton National Park.
Yes.
She said, no, bankruptcies, we're not. She was in denial because they hadn't happened yet. Why? Because businesses were trying to buy time and trying to figure it out, but they weren't filing yet. And even American Car Center probably hasn't filed yet, but they were on the verge of collapse. They were in a financial bind. They were in an economic whirlwind. And unfortunately, this is the case still today with a lot of businesses. This is going to happen more. And their solution is to go belly up and look to revamp their business in an AI online non-brick and mortar, non-physical employee business model to survive. Now, it says here that the American Car Center is also now facing a class action lawsuit filed on behalf of its employees who were given no notice that they were out of a job. But I'm going to tell you guys right now,
Where does the money come from?
Exactly.
If there's no money.
it's
if there
like
was
trying
money,
to, get blood out of a turnip, or a rock. Which one is it? I don't know.
I
Which
think
one.
it's a turnip.
It's a turnip.
Turn up.
Turn up.
Turn up.
But that's the thing. It's like, okay,
Turn down
cool.
for what?
This is what's called being judgment proof. When you have literally no assets. Therefore, sure, you've been granted a judgment, but the company, the entity, the person of which you spent money to sue and have been granted this judgment by a judge, they don't have anything to pay you. Therefore, at that point in time, if they then choose to file bankruptcy, you are SOL. Unfortunately for the employees, unfortunately for the financiers who lease these vehicles to the dealership, and countless other people associated and involved in this mess. But at the end of the day, folks, this is what we're up against. It's more than just CBDC. It's more than just Jerome Powell and the Fed raising interest rates. It's more than just the possible brink of a recession. Folks, this is serious.
Yeah.
On so many levels, So
I remember getting fired, I guess is the right word, laid off, fired, when I was 17 from a job because the place decided it was going to close and I didn't get any heads up.
that was when the economy was good.
And that was when the economy was good. I had a car payment, but I was 17. And even then I was like, oh, what the hell do I do? And all I literally had was a car payment and hanging out on the weekend money. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. And now
I didn't have a family and kids and a mortgage and all that other stuff that these people have.
And today it's like, all right, well, what do I do? Because, I have tons of monthly expenses, overhead, responsibility, debt, high inflation, a recession on the way, if not having already been in a recession since 2022. And the job market sucks. You're not going to go out there and just immediately replace your income or possibly do better. Prices are continuously going up. And, going to breakfast was like $22 a person for, meat and three. This is it. Mm-hmm. This is it.
Yeah. And it will continuously get harder and harder for everybody.
So we'll just close this out with, no, the banks are not closing this Friday, at least as far as I know. They're not collapsing this Friday, but I feel as though we did discuss and gain a greater understanding for what could possibly be, how it would happen, and also how the FDIC would be involved with that if and when it does, as well as discussing CBDC.
Which I still have some more questions on.
And we can bring that up in another video.
Okay.
As well, also, what businesses, again, folks, have conversations with your managers, have conversations with the business owners. Ask to see business financials and see how they're doing, projections. Maybe even imply that it would be better to keep everybody aware than to keep everybody in the dark and potentially cause a huge catastrophic implosion that could be very, very bad. And doing all we can on our own to execute on the three basic pillars: diversity, security, and cash flow. These people with the American Car Center probably don't have much in the form of diversity as far as producing additional income, which would fall into the same category as cash flow. But that diversity is also going to fall into the same category as security by having a safety net. Again, folks, diversity, security, and cash flow. Free links in the description down below for you all to check out. Thanks, Squirrel Tribe, for joining me yet again.
You're welcome.
If you guys got any questions, please drop a comment. And until next time, you guys take care, be safe. We'll see you real soon.